So now to sum those up, the total cost will be 1,400 USD for one Birkin out of factory.
Hermes is in full-on crisis mode, and the fashion world is watching in shock. Once regarded as the pinnacle of luxury, this French powerhouse has just been exposed in what could be the most jaw-dropping scandal the industry has ever faced. This isn't just a minor oversight or a media mishap. No, this is an all-out scandal that could bring the entire $300 billion designer handbag market to its knees. You know that iconic Made in France label, the one Hermès uses to justify the astronomical price of their $20,000 Birkin bags? Well, what if that was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion? Recent revelations are pointing to a startling truth. Your precious Birkin, the one you waited for years or paid a small fortune to secure, might have been crafted in the exact same Chinese factories churning out $400 knockoffs at lightning speed. We're talking identical stitching, almost indistinguishable leather, and disturbingly similar craftsmanship. If these claims hold water, the carefully constructed narrative of luxury is crumbling in real time. But here's where it gets even more absurd. Instead of taking responsibility or attempting to right the wrong, Hermès has decided to sue the very insiders who exposed the truth. That's right. They're going after the whistleblowers and manufacturers who dare to lift the curtain and show the ugly reality. The kicker? They're not denying the existence of these factories. They're just furious that anyone had the audacity to talk about it. Get ready, because this is more than just a scandal. It's a seismic shockwave rippling through the fashion world. Think fake exclusivity, global manufacturing secrets, and a multi-billion-dollar brand desperately scrambling to cover its tracks. This is more chaotic than a toddler armed with a Sharpie and a limited edition Kelly bag. And we've only just scratched the surface. For years, Hermès didn't simply sell handbags. They peddled a vision, a carefully constructed illusion of artisan mastery and French sophistication. Think of this: stoic craftsmen in pristine white coats, laboring over smooth leather in quaint, sunlit Parisian workshops, their every stitch an act of devotion. The air is filled with the soft glow of candlelight, violins serenade in the distance, and each Birkin is framed as a work of art, passed down through generations. It was this image, this fantastical story, that justified the astronomical prices, the elusive waiting lists, and the aura of exclusive luxury that surrounded the brand. But now, it's clear that this polished image was little more than a well-crafted lie, ready to fall apart at the seams. Thanks to a major leak involving confidential contracts, insider revelations, and explosive factory reports, the shocking truth has surfaced, and it's far more unsettling than anyone could have anticipated. Whistleblowers from inside the supply chain, alongside former factory partners, have revealed that nearly 80% of these so-called luxury bags are actually made in, surprise, China. That's right. The same China that Hermès once mocked as home to inferior knockoffs and budget imitations is now allegedly where the bulk of their high-end products are crafted. This isn't about a few isolated parts or accessories being outsourced. No, the entire production process is getting done abroad. The leather? Cut in China. The panels? Shaped in China. That legendary stitching, the hallmark of Hermès craftsmanship, the thing they tout in every advertisement? It's stitched in Chinese factories. By the time these so-called French bags make it to France, much of the heavy lifting is already completed. Hermès then adds a clasp, stitches on a handle, and slaps a Made in Paris label onto the finished product. Presto! Your $20,000 Birkin is ready for the runway, and you, dear customer, are left to worship the illusion of French luxury. It's the high-end equivalent of microwaving a frozen dinner and calling yourself a master chef. Instead of reheating a frozen meal, however, it's fine calfskin. Instead of a mere meal, it's a luxury product meant to symbolize status. And in the end, Hermès isn't counting on quality craftsmanship to sell its bags. It's banking on your blind loyalty and your unwillingness to look past the shiny exterior. A $600 bag. Yes, you heard that right. Costs just $600 to make, but it's then flipped and sold for a staggering $38,000. That's not a mistake or an exaggeration. This is almost the same price as a brand new luxury car, all for something that costs less to produce than an average iPhone. When you dive into the breakdown, the picture gets even more shocking. The leather? It's not the exclusive, hand-softened material from secret magical farms in the Alps. In reality, it's strikingly similar to the leather you'd find at your local Coach outlet. Durable, sure, but definitely not the luxurious, one-of-a-kind hide that Hermès has built its entire brand on. And then we come to the hardware. The shiny clasp, the precious metalwork that supposedly takes hours of delicate artisan effort to perfect. According to insiders who've worked on the production line, it's all mass-produced in factories, simply polished up to look more glamorous than it really is. These metals? They're cheaper than what you'd find on a trendy piece of jewelry from Zara. Something you'd buy on impulse and expect to lose its luster within a few months. And yet, Hermès is charging an amount that most people earn in an entire year for this so-called luxury. But here's the truly outrageous part, the cherry on top of this whole deceitful cake. Hermes isn't even trying to cover up the truth anymore. They're not scrambling to shift production or hide the fact that their materials are nowhere near the level of prestige they've marketed for decades. Quite the opposite, in fact. They're leaning into it, boldly and unapologetically. Why? Because they know exactly what they're really selling. And it's not about craftsmanship or quality. No, it's about status. It's the illusion of exclusivity. It's the power of that tiny, recognizable H logo. In their minds, the bag doesn't need to be flawless. It doesn't even need to be luxurious. What matters is that it's stamped with that iconic logo, and that's all people care about. As long as consumers keep craving that fantasy and are willing to pay top dollar for a name, Hermes will keep raking in the profits. No matter what's really inside that pricey bag. Then, things took an unexpected and shocking turn. TikTok, famous for its viral dance trends and endless cat videos, became the unlikely stage for a scandal so massive, it threatened to bring Hermes to its knees. In a moment of accidental transparency, Chinese factory workers, those faceless hands behind the supposed luxury, began posting behind-the-scenes footage of Birkins in various stages of production. These weren't just random, harmless clips either. No, these videos pulled back the curtain and exposed the raw, unfiltered truth. Same leather, same stitching, and, here's the bombshell, no Hermes logos anywhere in sight. The workers, likely documenting their daily routines in an attempt to capture a viral moment, unwittingly unveiled a production process that obliterated the carefully crafted Hermes myth. One employee, perhaps unaware of how their words would echo across the internet, let slip the most damning piece of all. We make the bags, ship them to France, they add the stamp, and voila, suddenly it's artisan French luxury. That's right. The so-called bespoke masterpiece, the item that was touted as the pinnacle of meticulous craftsmanship by skilled French artisans, was in reality little more than an assembly line product, albeit one with an extremely well-timed marketing strategy. The only thing elevating it to the realm of exclusivity and prestige? The Hermes logo that was slapped on at the final stage. And how did Hermes respond to this bombshell? Did they admit the truth, come clean, and overhaul their operations? Of course not. Instead, they followed the familiar playbook of major corporations in damage control mode. They decided to silence the whistleblowers by suing the very factories that exposed them. Hermes launched a legal battle, demanding that the Chinese factories stop revealing the secrets of their production process and cease all operations related to the brand. They hoped to shut down the truth before it spread any further. But here's the catch. In the digital age, information moves faster than legal complaints can silence it. The internet, as it turns out, has an impeccable memory. Despite Hermes' best efforts to erase the incriminating videos and quash the workers' testimonies, the damage was already done. The truth had seeped into the public consciousness, and it wasn't going anywhere. TikTok videos, along with countless screenshots, reposts, and commentary, circulated relentlessly, becoming an indelible part of the internet's collective memory. But it didn't stop there. The real fallout began in the resale market. This is where luxury goods are bought, sold, and traded, and where authenticity is everything. Suddenly, those once mythical Birkins, regarded as rare, pristine, French-made treasures, were now tainted. The mystique that had made them so desirable was forever marred, and savvy buyers and sellers took notice. Prices on the resale market began to plummet, as the truth spread and doubts about the bag's authenticity crept into the minds of potential buyers. Hermes tried with all its power and resources to shut down the scandal, but the damage to its reputation was irreversible. Once the illusion of exclusivity had been broken, it was nearly impossible to restore. The once untouchable aura of the brand had cracked, and no amount of lawsuits or damage control could fully erase what had been exposed. Imagine this: Hermes, once the untouchable symbol of luxury, now finds itself desperately scrambling to cover its tracks and erase any evidence of its deceit. The brand, which has spent decades building a flawless image as the epitome of high-end fashion, is now fighting to protect its tarnished reputation by suing its own manufacturers for defamation. What does that mean exactly? Well, in simple terms, it's this: how dare you reveal the truth about how and where we really make our bags? Hermes had woven a nearly flawless narrative about its products, spinning tales of skilled artisans working tirelessly in the heart of France, handcrafting each Birkin bag with painstaking care. But now, the very factories that helped produce these bags were blowing the whistle, and Hermes wasn't having it. But here's the problem. The numbers don't lie. Take the iconic Birkin bag. The company claims it takes around 20 hours for a skilled artisan to stitch together just one bag by hand. If that's the case, how on earth could Hermes have sold an astronomical $2.3 billion worth of Birkins in just 1 year? Simple math shows that, at 20 hours per bag, it would take an artisan hundreds of years to produce the volume of bags Hermes reports selling annually. So, what's the most logical conclusion? Either Hermes has figured out how to clone its artisans at an absurd rate, or, and this is far more likely, the Made in France label is just a well-crafted illusion. It's nothing more than a carefully cultivated fairy tale that has been spun to convince customers that they're purchasing a handcrafted work of art, rather than a mass-produced luxury item made in factories halfway around the world. As these facts come to light, it raises an even more unsettling question. How many other high-end brands are pulling the same stunt? Could it be that the entire luxury industry is built on a foundation of half-truths, deceptive labeling, and questionable practices? What does this say about a system that spent decades convincing consumers that luxury equals craftsmanship, when in reality, many of the world's most coveted items are simply products of outsourced, industrialized production? And perhaps most importantly, what happens when consumers wake up and realize they've been paying an inflated price for an illusion? An illusion that's not only misleading but also completely disconnected from the so-called exclusivity and artistry they've been sold? The backlash could be devastating, and the luxury market may never recover from the loss of trust it could face. Now, here's where things take a wild turn. Celebrities like Kylie Jenner and Cardi B have made Birkin synonymous with status, casually flaunting them like priceless trophies. But behind the scenes, whispers have emerged suggesting that half of those coveted Birkins aren't even bought. They're either gifted by Hermès as a marketing tactic or worse, outright fakes. Why? Because you, the consumer, are the real target here. Every single Instagram post, every paparazzi photo featuring a Birkin casually draped over a celebrity's arm. It's a $20,000 advertisement. They're not just showing off luxury. They're selling you the dream. The dream of exclusivity, of status, of having something that makes you feel above the crowd. And here's the most shocking part. Even the influencers who endorse these bags have admitted, off the record, that they'd rather shell out a fraction of the price for a knockoff than actually drop a down payment on a real Birkin. Why? Because the reality is, the bag itself isn't nearly as important as the illusion it creates. It's the ultimate hustle, a luxury brand that's built its entire empire not on craftsmanship or quality, but on the idea that owning a Birkin somehow elevates your life. Yet, even those at the top of the influencer food chain, the ones who are supposed to epitomize wealth and success, are more than happy to settle for a dupe if it means saving thousands of dollars. And that's the secret Hermes would prefer you not to know. The real value of a Birkin isn't in its materials or labor. It's in the illusion of what owning one represents. So here's the real kicker. If your $20,000 Birkin proudly says, "Made in France," but was actually stitched together in Shenzhen, China, what exactly are you paying for? Quality craftsmanship? Or just the illusion of exclusivity? Think about it. Drop a comment below. Would you still shell out thousands for a Hermes bag knowing the truth behind it? Smash that like button if you're over luxury brands pulling the wool over your eyes. And don't forget to subscribe.